After a successful debut episode, what's better than a second episode? It is Something Else, episode number 002. My name is Arya. It is Something Else with Arya and KJ, and I'm joined by my co-host. He is captivating with a capital K. It's KJ.
Hello,
KJ.
hello.
How are you doing this fine Thursday?
I'm doing much better today. Feel great. How about yourself?
I am doing fantabulous. I do want to thank everybody for the awesome feedback we've gotten since our debut show dropped on Sunday. And so we're here this week. We're talking NWA Worldwide Wrestling from January 5th, 1985. And then we're also going to debut a brand new segment at the end of the show, which, again, when you're a brand new show, every segment you do is a brand new segment. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about some LGBT matters, which, again, end of the show. We'll get to that when we get to it. I do want to remind you that you can listen to us on about 87 different platforms, including angrymarks.com, YouTube, tinyurl.com/somethingelsepod, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Podbean, Castbox, Overcast, Pod Paradise, Castro, Podbay.fm, and Radio Public. Again, these are all real places. Any questions, comments, concerns, or emotional outbursts from my co-host?
Nope. Just Castro's a little... I don't know. I just never heard of half these things. So it's like, where are we going?
So just because you've never heard of them doesn't mean that, that they're fake,
Really? So the whole world doesn't revolve around me and what I know?
Shockingly, no.
Oh, wow. You can knock me over with a feather.
Anyone got a feather? How about I just take my pillow, go to your house, and hit you really hard in the face?
Yeah, I'm sure with enough force you could probably knock me down.
I'm sure I can. So let's get into the fun here. Hang on just a minute, and we'll be right back with our Mid-Atlantic talk. This podcast is sponsored by the amazing people at BetterHelp. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's time for the sponsor plug, so I'm just going to fast forward 3 minutes. However, what if I told you that the next 3 minutes could potentially save your life or the life of someone you love?
If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp is here to help. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you in a private online environment at your convenience.
Take it from someone who went through their own mental health crisis. Sometimes you don't feel comfortable talking to family or friends. It can be beyond helpful to have a therapist you can trust and who can help you get through everything.
BetterHelp has a network of over 20,000 therapists with a broad range of expertise that will give you access to help that may not be available in your area. All you need to do is fill out a questionnaire with your specific needs, and they will match you with a therapist in under 48 hours.
If things aren't working out with the therapist that they match you with, don't worry. You can request a new therapist anytime at no additional cost. Over 3 million people have already taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. And right now, you can get 10% off of your first month by going to betterhelp.com/something else. That's betterhelp.com/something else. Welcome back to Something Else with Ari and KJ. We are here to discuss NWA Worldwide Wrestling from January 5th, 1985, taped January 2nd, 1985, in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Dorton Arena. KJ, Are you psyched? It's our first worldwide show.
Yeah, I'm definitely psyched. I've never seen any of the worldwides before, so watching them was an experience.
Now, the funny thing about this, our little taping schedule here, is that this is actually the very first thing we're recording, even though it's going to be the second episode that you hear. We are actually recording this on August 3rd on Tom Brady's 45th birthday. Now, I know you're a big fan of Tom. He's such a big fan, he's disappeared, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you were talking to me?
Yeah, who the heck else?
I thought you were talking to the audience.
Wow. Stick to wrestling, I guess, Aria. Stick to wrestling. So being the first episode and, knowing KJ doesn't have the a whole boatload of wrestling history behind him, I thought I would introduce the show a little bit, especially if there's anybody else out there who's not really a big historical wrestling fan. So this show is called NWA Worldwide Wrestling, even though it's being run exclusively by Jim Crockett Promotions, and to the best of my knowledge, at the time, only aired in the areas that Jim Crockett promoted, which were the Mid-Atlantic regions of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Now, they would eventually, when this company gets bought by Ted Turner, they would become WCW, and this show, along with all their other shows, would expand nationally. Actually, Worldwide expands nationally in like 86, 87, when they decided to try to go national and compete with Vince. Now, what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So the NWA World Champion is Ric Flair. And for those of you who, know the time period, we have actually passed the last time that somebody other than Jim Crockett Promotions / WCW had an NWA World title change until either 1991, if you count Fujinami, or 92. So basically, every world title change you're going to hear about is going to be from this company right here. Thoughts on that, KJ?
No, because really I'm just learning about all this stuff to begin with, so I really have nothing to say as of now.
Sounds good. So each of the episodes, for those who don't know, it starts with a little bit of a preview of what you're going to see. It's usually some angle or something that's happened in the last week or two, and then they show the full angle later on. And this one was footage of Don Kernodle beating up Ivan Koloff while the crowd goes nuts. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting how they put like not necessarily a promo, but a preview of what you're going to see for the episode, like a highlight, I guess. I thought that was pretty cool. And I like how it just like kind of, and I do like the intro song too. It's very, very groovy, very reminiscent of the time period.
It's very 1985.
Yeah, I know.
Now, throughout our shows, as you'll know if you've listened to our Mid-South show this week, we're going to be playing the promos, or at least most of the promos from the show, and then KJ and I are going to react to them afterwards. So after the opening video, we go to Tony Schiavone, who's with Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez, who at the time are the NWA World Tag Team Champions. And I got to press pause right now, KJ, because you need to allow me to share audio.
Okay.
Forgot to do that before we started.
All right.
Okay.
All set.
So I'm gonna. This will be another one for the blooper reel. Uh,
We got 2 so far, I think. 2 or 3 good clips.
yeah, me not being able to introduce the show was the first one. So just going to rewind back to Tony Schiavone starts the show, blah, 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 blah. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and... So Tony Schiavone starts the show, and actually Tony's going to be flying solo for this episode, doing commentary. I'm not sure what happened to David Crockett, but he's not here. And Tony's with the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Dusty Rhodes and Manny Fernandez, and let's hear what they have to say.
Worldwide Wrestling. I'm Tony Schiavone, along with the World Tag Team Champions, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. We start out the program today with a very special announcement. A challenge has been issued for the World's Tag Team title. It's been by the Road Warriors. They have challenged the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez to put up their World Tag Team titles, the Road Warriors.
Let me tell you something, Road Warriors. Your challenge has been issued and your challenge has been accepted. I guarantee you, with all your power and your authenticity, with all that giant strength and everything, that little manager of yours, you're going to find out why they call the American Dream Dusty Rhodes and the Raging Bull giant killers, baby. Because we go out for one thing, to accomplish what we want to do. And that was to be the World Tag Team Champions. As a partner he is to me, and like a brother and like a father to me, I guarantee you. Road Warriors, your challenge is accepted.
Dusty?
You know what? They are awesome. I mean, throughout this country, the name of the Road Warriors has been an awesome name. And I know we have a piece of film of VTR on the Road Warriors right now, and we'll comment on just how violent and how vicious these men are coming after the World's Tag Team titles. So let me tell them, we're ready for them right now.
All right, so they go to a Road Warriors match. But what did you think about the Dusty and Manny promo there?
I thought it was good. So these promos, they're pretty much ad-libbed, more or less.
For the most part. Now, Dusty Rhodes is actually the booker at the time, and so he would go in and give you an idea of what he wanted you to talk about, and then he'd set you free and let you go, and, you know...
That's cool. Yeah, I do like the freestyle aspect of it. It's nice. And I just realized, well, I do notice, like, right after the promo, it immediately cuts to the match. Like, I'm used to the officials saying, like, oh, the following contest scheduled for one fall, like the intro, their music. But no, it just goes straight from promo to match. I found that interesting.
Yeah, and I thought Dusty and Manny did a good job acknowledging the challenge of the Road Warriors. They set you up for what's coming on in the future. And then we went to the ring, and they called it, VTR footage, meaning like it was pre-recorded. But for all intents and purposes, they could have just included it as actually part of the show, because this was taped on the same day. And it was the Road Warriors versus Rick McCord and Steve Muslin. The Road Warriors, of course, had Paul Ellering in their corner. And for those who've listened, actually, I don't think it's aired yet on our Mid-South show, but the Paul Ellering on here is about halfway between Mid-South Paul Ellering with the long blonde hair and the groovy promos, and the Paul Ellering that we all know as the Road Warriors manager. It's like he's somewhere stuck halfway between the two, and he's evolving as we speak. And KJ at the moment has no idea what I'm talking about.
I do not know, but I do like Paul Ellering style. Like, he's a very fashionable man. So I will say that.
So this was a squash match. It did go more than 30 seconds. When you always think of Road Warrior squash matches on these shows, you think of it's a 30-second squash or some poor jobber in the ring. But they went about 2 or 3 minutes, and I guess they just needed a little bit more ring time. Or Dusty just hasn't yet gotten the hang of how to book them the best way anyway.
Yeah, I noticed how quickly the match was over. It was shocking. This is the first Mid-South. This is the first worldwide match I've seen. I just was surprised at how abruptly it ended.
You see this a lot, especially with these TV matches back in the 80s. It's less to do with the wrestling in the ring and more to do with the promos and the angles. And not saying that, the matches are necessarily awful, but most of the time they're nothing that, you're not watching the show for the wrestling. At the end of the day, you're watching it for everything that happens along with it. These matches are here to get people over, and that they did.
Yeah, it's less spectacle.
Yes. And by the way, I did forget to mention one thing in our open. This is January 1985, so this is before they got the Saturday night at 6:05 time slot. At this point, that was still being run by the WWF, or as it's known now, WWE. And that doesn't actually get switched over to Crockett until after WrestleMania 1, which was March 31st of 85. So at the moment, the only shows Jim Crockett Promotions had were Worldwide, and I believe they still had Mid-Atlantic Wrestling at the time. So this isn't quite yet the Jim Crockett Promotions everyone remembers on TBS at 6:05, etc. This is, this is the only Jim Crockett Promotions shows you would see if you were living in that area. And so from here, we go to a Ricky Steamboat interview. Now, speaking of WrestleMania, I was honestly surprised to see Ricky Steamboat here because he's literally on the first WrestleMania on March 31st.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. So it's like he leaves Crockett at some point in the next 2 months and goes to the WWF in time to be scheduled for a match at WrestleMania. I would say, can you imagine if that happened today? But I guess in some ways that's what happened with Cody this year. Cody Rhodes, he left AEW and ended up on WrestleMania, but that's not something that happens all that often.
Yeah, so it's like a rare occurrence, but was it more common back then?
Yes and no. Because if you watch those early WrestleManias, like you'll see like people who just started with the company. Like you'll see Ricky Steamboat here. You'll see Jake Roberts the one year. It's like they just started. They maybe did 1 or 2 TV tapings, and here they are at WrestleMania, usually wrestling, an enhancement talent in a 4 or 5 minute match. It's there to get you over. It's not like the current WrestleMania where you have 20 matches and all of them have some degree of angle, going on forever. So speaking of Steamboat, let's play that promo that he cut right here.
Right now with me, Ricky Steamboat. A lot of things are on your mind. Of course, not too long ago, you had a chance to go after the World Heavyweight title of Nature Boy Ric Flair, and I'm sure that is still on your mind.
That's right, Tony. But first, I'd like to welcome all the wrestling fans out there that are watching on the television show a Happy New Year. If you've been watching us for years, or if you're just newcomers into the area watching our professional wrestling, I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year. Now, getting back to Ric Flair. Ric Flair, as everybody knows, is the National Wrestling Alliance champion, and he has won the championship belt on his second occasion. Now, everybody also knows that the man carries the belt and represents the belt, I feel, is probably one of the greatest champions ever. You've got Harley Race, 7 times world champion, and Harley Race track record speaks for himself. And I also know and understand that across the country, there's a big, long list of contenders that would like to wrestle against Ric Flair. And I'm going to be in that line. I'm going to be in that line with my pen ready to sign the contract to see if Ric Flair will wrestle me anywhere across this country, anytime, any place. I train diligently for 6 days a week, 2 hours a day to keep in shape. My quest for 1985 is to get the opportunity to wrestle against the World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair and hopefully keep my fingers crossed and with the support of the fans, walk away that night as the World Heavyweight Champion. This is something that I know that every single professional wrestler, whether they are starting out or whether if they've been in the business for a long, long time, one goal in mind is to capture the World Heavyweight belt. And Ric Flair, I've got to tell you, brother, you're the best, but I'll be after you.
All right. So did you like how he welcomed you as a new viewer to NWA Worldwide?
Yeah, it's a total face promo, definitely. I love that he wished everyone a Happy New Year and everything.
Oh, yeah. Like, Ricky Steamboat's like the ultimate babyface. Even, I think either Hogan said this or maybe Pat Patterson said this. But basically, when they were in the WWF years later, Steamboat asked about, possibly turning heel and getting a shot with Hogan. And he was told that the fans loved him so much that if he turned heel and chopped off Hogan's arm, the fans would probably sit and go, you know what? Hogan deserved that.
He's just that good.
Yes. And so that leads us to our next match, which is Tully Blanchard, Black Bart, and Ron Bass with J.J. Dillon in their corner against Tommy Lane, Lee Ramsey, and David Diamond. Now, Tully is the World TV Champion. Bass is the Mid-Atlantic Champion. And Bass and Black Bart, who are known as the Long Riders, are also the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions. Now, ignoring the fact that they have some really ugly title belts, this trio has got, I don't even call it the gold. They've got the leather, man.
Yeah, this match was over really quickly, too.
And actually, I'm mistaken. JJ wasn't here. And the thing is, he's looking for bounty hunters. And I thought they'd said he's looking for bounty hunters to take out Dusty Rhodes, but we'll find out in a few weeks that he's looking for bounty hunters to take out Dick Slater. And
yeah, I was confused when I heard that, like bounty hunters. I know I have that in my notes. I highlighted that because I really don't know what that means yet, at least.
Well, I have a short audio clip of Tony explaining JJ being gone at the moment.
You'll probably notice that James J. Dillon, the manager who's always with the Long Riders, is not at ringside. He is out looking for some of those bounty hunters that you've heard talked about. Of course, now he claims that guys like Dusty Rhodes and Manny Fernandez and all those guys are double teaming, triple teaming 6 men on his Long Riders. So he's gone out looking for bounty hunters. You probably saw a poster that we had not too long ago in which he was looking for people to come help him out. So James J. Dillon is not with the Long Riders today, but of course he is around right now.
All right. So, yeah, he basically just said what I just said, that, he's out looking for a bounty hunter to take out some baby faces, and he's upset because, in battle royals and things of that nature, the Long Riders are being double teamed and triple teamed, and thus they're not able to win the battle royal. And this is heel logic in 1985 because, a battle royal is every man for himself.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So one thing that's going to get mentioned a lot as we go through here is this is the 50th anniversary of Jim Crockett Promotions, and they repeat this throughout the entire year. And at the end of the day here, I should have written down the timestamp for this one, but Ron Bass takes Diamond outside and slams him on the guardrail, and Tony takes a full 20 seconds to try to describe this because he can't think of the name of the guardrail. Finally, we break down into a Pier 6 brawl. Still not sure why brawls only take place on Pier 6 and not Pier 3 or Pier 7. And Tully wins with the slingshot suplex on Lee Ramsey, which if you've never seen it before, and keep in mind, we're in the day and age where you have like the coolest, wackiest moves in the world being aired. But in my opinion, one of the coolest moves is still the slingshot suplex, where Tully lifts the guy up for a suplex, bounces his feet off the ropes, and takes him back into a suplex.
Oh, yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. And, we're going to see, it's one of those moves that you'd think, well, it only works if you're wrestling somebody 200 pounds or something. We're going to see some larger individuals that he does that to, over the next few years, including a famous one with Ray Traylor, who would go on to be Big Bubba and the Big Boss Man. Now, up next, by the way, do you have anything else to say about that match?
No.
Sounds good. So up next, we have a local interview with Tony Schiavone, and we'll get these a lot where Tony Schiavone comes out. They're usually about 2 minutes long. He talks about the upcoming card coming to your area, and then he interviews somebody affiliated with that card. So to give you an idea, I'm going to play the entire thing here. In the future, we're going to cut off the first half where Tony's talking about the individual cards. But to give you an idea, we're going to play the whole thing here. It's going to take about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But it'll give you an idea of what these things were like at the time. And it's also Tony will not just talk about that, but he'll also be interviewing Ivan and Nikita Koloff. And let's go to that right now.
8:15, Bassett High School Gym, Bassett, Virginia. The 50th anniversary kickoff spectacular comes there with the Barbarian Superstar Billy Graham, the Raging Bull, and all the top stars. A supercard in Roanoke at the Civic Center Sunday, January the 27th, and the bell time is at 8 o'clock. You'll see the World Heavyweight Champion, Nature Boy Ric Flair, and other stars. A supercard at the Roanoke Civic Center. Speaking of supercards, a super gigantic card coming to the Greensboro Coliseum tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. It's the Golden Anniversary kickoff spectacular. You will see midget wrestlers, Lord Littlebrook to take on Cowboy Lang. Black Bar with James J. Dillon will go after Steve Casey. A six-man tag team match. James J. Dillon, Cowboy Ron Bassett, Superstar Billy Graham with Paul Jones against Charlie Brown from out of town, the Assassin #1, and Avalanche Buzz Tyler. A special challenge match. Wahoo McDaniel takes on Magnum TA for the TV title, $10,000 with Texas Deathmatch rules. It's Tully Blanchard against Dick Slater for the World's Tag Team title. The Raging Bull and Dusty Rhodes defend against the Road Warriors for the World's Heavyweight title. It's Nature Boy Ric Flair defending against former 7-time champion Harley Race. A lights-out cage match. It's flag versus flag. Ivan Koloff will take on Don Kernodle 2 minutes after the match to capture each other's flag, and anything goes. Plus a $50,000 20-man battle royal. You'll see the Barbarian, Nikita Koloff, Ole Anderson, Ricky Steamboat, Brian Adidas, and many other top stars. Let's bring in, first of all, Ivan and Nikita Koloff.
It's all the American people. They all stick together. They think they got Nikita and myself on the run. They were going to have to go back to Russia in disgrace, in dishonor. Yes, I've got bad news from Russia about how they feel so upset about us losing our Russian flag. But Don Kernodle, it's coming to you and I right here in Greensboro. Yes, tomorrow. It's going to be over. It's going to be over for you, Don Kernodle, because we are locked in this cage. And we are going to find out that the extra blood or the extra red that's on this flag is going to be a lot more, and it's going to come from your body in Greensboro tomorrow. You're going to feel a lot of pain. All you Americans, there's only one place where you belong, and that's in the chains. And these chains here, where you belong in your ancestry. And tomorrow in Greensboro, it's going to relate back to that. For you, Kernodle, it's going to be over. Yes, in the Battle Royal, Nikita is going to capture all those American dollars, $50,000. Kernodle, it's come to the end for you.
Now, I liked as the next few weeks play out that nobody can pronounce poor Don Kernodle's name right. They keep calling him Kernodle.
I have it written down as Kernodle. So I put a question mark next time, like, who's Kernodle? What's Kernodle? But honestly, Ivan and Nikita, they're my favorites so far. They're the most fun. And I just love how they talk in these thick Russian accents. They wear a singlet with a hammer and sickle on it. They always talk bad about Americans. Yeah. If you still didn't get that they were Russian, they have to have the headbands with USSR on it. I love that. It's just, yeah.
Of course, there's no room for subtlety,
Yeah, not at all, no.
And the best part is Ivan's from Canada and Nikita's from Minnesota.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And Ivan, for those who don't know, he is a former WWE champion and ended the 8-year-long title reign of Bruno Sammartino. And that was 1971, and it's not like he was brand new to the business then, and he's still here 14 years later, and spoiler, he's gonna be here for a few more years, KJ. So I'm happy that you like him.
Oh yeah,
him and Nikita for that matter.
I love the absurdity.
It's it's a fun little thing here that we got going. So up next we have the Barbarian with Paul Jones in his corner versus Joel Deaton. Paul Jones has got his ruffled shirt from the 1970s. As I made a note of it, it's not what you make, it's what you save. Barbarian uses a thrust to the Adam's apple, and the biggest reaction so far of anything on the show, and we're 20 minutes in, was outside the ring, Paul hitting Joel repeatedly with his cane. And finally, the Barbarian won with his diving headbutt, and continued to beat on Deaton until the referee rolled Deaton out of the ring. Now, I think this was before you even watched the entire first episode. I think you were just kind of looking to see what it was about. The one thing you mentioned to me, well, the two things you mentioned to me was the Barbarian and number one Paul Jones's attire.
I don't remember. What is that? What did I say about that?
You just commented on its uniqueness.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like it's the guy I'm thinking of, the Barbarian. I really like his mohawk. I thought that was, it's very unique looking. And I also thought about how, the different, how certain wrestlers on, especially modern shows like SmackDown, Raw, things like that, most of the wrestlers are very yoked, to say the least, like they're shredded, things like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas on this show, it's a lot more natural body types. And I think that's cool. And,
I mean, we can all speculate on how everybody in the WWE got their body types, or at least back in the 80s.
We may never know. We may never know.
To be fair, it's not much speculation, but, you're far from the first person to notice that the people in the WWE are over muscular, Superman and superheroes, while the people in the NWA look more real, look more athletic.
Yeah.
Especially at this point, when you watch matches from the WWF versus the NWA, it was very obvious that they were going for two different types of wrestling. You had your showmanship in New York versus your athleticism here in the Carolinas. Did you have anything else to say about the ball bearing?
Nope, that's about it.
All right, so we go to back to Tony Schiavone for an interview with World Television Champion Tully Blanchard.
This man, the NWA Television Champion Tully Blanchard, is seen by more wrestling fans on nationwide TV than any other, and it's always good to have you with us.
Well, Tony, it's always a great pleasure to be here on Worldwide Wrestling National Television, being the NWA Television Champion. But the reason I'm out here, 84 was a great year for me. I finished it off in grand fashion, taking money from people, defending the title. But now, countdown to ecstasy, Tully Blanchard's search for the perfect woman for a 10. I'm going to make the girl that I pick. Now, I want people to send in their letters, and I want to send postcards. I want portfolios if you're a model. You send them all. They're going to put an address up here in a little bit. This is where you send them to. The girl I pick is going to be more famous than Bo Derek, Raquel Welch rolled into one. She's going to be seen in arenas with Tully Blanchard from coast to coast around the world. She's going to be famous. She's going to be wealthy. She's going to have notoriety. She's going to have everything a woman could dream. And to top it all, the icing on top of the cake, she's going to be seen on the arm of the NWA Television Champion, Tully Blanchard. And I tell you what, there's the address right there. Looking for a 10. That's all you have to do. 421 Briarbend. You send them to me. No postcards, please. I don't want any postcards at all. Just letters, portfolios, pictures. If you want to send in a bikini, you want to send your negligee, you want to send in your birthday suit, you send it to me. Because the girl I pick is going to be the luckiest, Tony, and I mean the luckiest woman in the world. She's going to have notoriety. She's going to have everything that her daddy ever wanted. She's going to be a man's fantasy. Every man that's going to see her on television every week is going to fantasize about her. Every woman that sees her on television every week is going to be envious of her. She's going to have everything. And then she's going to have the television champion riding style. Tony, it's going to be a something. Everything's going to be alive in 85.
All right. So Tully is looking for a woman to be his perfect 10. And we'll see how that plays out in a few weeks. I had to chuckle because when they put the address up on the screen, it says looking for a 10, but 10 is in quotation marks. He's not really looking for a 10. He's looking for a 10.
Just like the number 10.
Yes. I wonder if anybody just mailed him a picture of the number 10.
They could have won just for that. So is this character supposed to be like a sleazy type guy? Because that's definitely the vibes I get from him. Like, this is the kind of guy that when he comes up to me in the bar, I immediately fear for my life.
You could say that a little bit. He's a little sleazy.
Yeah, because he wants a perfect 10, but like at most he's a 5. I find that like so ironic.
Now, is that an 80s 5 or a 2022 5?
Well, I wasn't alive in the 80s, so I don't know what a 5 in the 80s would be.
Well, imagine if you were.
Imagine if okay, so when I think of 80s, I think of like mullets, handlebar mustaches, leather jackets, just basically, Bon Jovi concerts, things like that.
Well, I can promise you that the perfect 10 will not have a handlebar mustache. But so we're going to have a lot to say about this, but I always wonder, and, Jim Crockett and wrestling in general did this a lot where they'd ask women to mail in their pictures to win a contest. It's like, what do you think they did with all those pictures afterwards?
That kind of creeps me out, but yeah.
Here's a spoiler, for those who don't know this already. Tully doesn't just pick some fan to be his perfect 10. He picks a female wrestler. So it's not like, we're having this contest, we may legitimately pick an attractive fan and she's going to travel the world with the NWA World Television Champion, Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, so it's probably scripted then?
Really?
Yeah.
Wrestling being scripted? I don't know.
Yeah, blowing my mind here.
So we go from there to a promo with the Long Riders, who are Black Bart and Ron Bass, in case you forget. Let's play that one here quickly. Be good if I unpressed mute.
Team champions, of course, Cowboy Ron Bass, also the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion. You also saw that James J. Dillon was not here today, and it's unusual to see you two guys without James J. Dillon.
There's a very good reason why Mr. J.J. Dillon isn't here. Tony, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been around here. We come to the area, and we were very successful. I gained the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship right off the bat, and then we turned right around and won the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions. And when we did this, people get jealous. People, when they see you being successful, they get jealous. They want to jump on the bandwagon. They want to keep jumping in the ring on us. And that's what's been happening. Every time we go to the ring, there's 8, 9, 10 people. They come and butt into our business. And J.J. Dillon, he's out recruiting now. There ain't no way we're being the superior athletes that we are. We can handle anybody 2-on-2, for that matter 2-on-3. But when you start jumping 6, 7, 8, we're no fools, brother. We know we got to go get help, and J.J. Dillon is doing just that. He's out looking for help for us, my friend. He's out looking for some bad hombres. We're going to even some numbers. You gentlemen, we're going to show you a few little film right here. It's a bunkhouse match, something we excel in. But as usual, Magnum TA comes jumping into the ring. He turns the numbers around. Well, gentlemen, it's going to stop happening because the Long Riders and J.J. Dillon are going to do something about it. We are in a recruitment program right now. We're going to even the numbers up, gentlemen. So if you want to draw the battle lines, if you want a real all-out war, just like a bunkhouse is, the people in there, they saw what it looked like right there on national TV, brother. We had a bunkhouse, and we did very well till numbers came in. Well, numbers are going to come to our side, and J.J. Dillon is going to have a big surprise for every hillbilly and every redneck that's out there watching, brother. The Long Riders get even.
Alrighty, so we mentioned there's a Long Riders promo, but it was really a Ron Bass promo. KJ, they are looking for some bad hombres to back them up.
I liked it. It was very hype. He knows how to get you hyped up. I also have written down for this part, no volume control. He's very loud.
Yes, he is. And so that leads us to our next match, which is Assassin number 1 versus Curtis Harrison. Literally, all I wrote about this was Assassin won with a punch to the face. Have you got any more?
Yes. one of their masks looked like gold dust a little bit. It reminded me.
That would be the assassin's mask, the gold
Yeah.
and black mask. I can see that.
And the match was over in 3 minutes. That's the only other thing I have.
3 minutes, I wrote 7 words about it. So then we got a Paul Jones interview, and I'm not going to play it because even for a Paul Jones interview, it really wasn't that great. He showed us footage of superstar Billy Graham beating Brian Adidas. And for those wondering, this is not the, superstar Billy Graham of 1978, cutting his jive promos, wearing tie-dye. This is during his karate gimmick, where for some reason he thought that the best thing to do would be to shave his head and take away everything that everybody liked about him and instead be the karate man.
That always goes well.
Oh, yeah. And I can't wait till we talk about his matches coming up so we can talk about all the karate moves that he uses. Magnum TA versus Doug Vines. I noted that Tony put over that TA wins his matches super quickly. So, of course, TA doesn't win this one too quickly, but he did win with a belly-to-belly suplex coming off the ropes, which I always thought looked great. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's cool. I thought that match was good. There was a lot of grappling.
We then get a local promo with Ric Flair, and that segues into a promo with Don Kernodle. So let's play that one here.
We all knew that sooner or later you'd come back to Greensboro race. We all knew you'd be back in the world title picture. Nobody in this whole world knows what the world championship means better than you do, Harley. But think about this. Greensboro's my kind of town, my kind of people. Ooh, and now the World Heavyweight Championship is mine. Harley, you're not taking Ric Flair, and you're not taking the World Heavyweight Championship. Greensboro, January 6th. Harley, woo, Ric Flair is going to be ready. Woo!
And it's a lights-out cage match, flag versus flag. The pride of the USA, Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff.
Fellow Americans, I appreciate your support, and you've asked for a cage match. Well, here it is tomorrow in the Greensboro Coliseum. Koloff, you know it all started in a cage right here. I'm going to take you, I'm going to run your head all over this thing, and I'm going to beat you once and for all right there in the Greensboro Coliseum, followed by fellow Americans. I understand that Russia's a little hot at you because you're not getting the job done. Well, let me tell you something. Tomorrow in the Greensboro Coliseum, I'm going to win the flag and the match, and you're going back to Russia.
Alrighty, so Flair's talking about his match with Harley Race coming up, tomorrow night in Greensboro. Now, I didn't even realize Harley was still making appearances in Mid-Atlantic because, basically when he lost the NWA title in '83 to Flair, and then I figured, he basically stuck in the Kansas City area until going to the WWF in a year or two. A good Flair promo, nothing, memorable, but it got the job done, and it was easily the best promo on the show, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I liked that one. I still think that the Nikita and Ivan one was better, but that's just because, I love the absurdity.
Now, do you want to go to Greensboro tomorrow night to see, what happens here?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He sold that so well.
Better jump on a plane. So then we get the close of the show. And
oh, my favorite part. Yay.
So without commercials, this show goes 48 minutes and 19 seconds. Dusty Rhodes comes out at the 38-minute and 50-second mark for a promo. And I figured, he'll go 3 or 4 minutes. We'll cut to a quick little squash match to end the show, maybe have another promo, and then be out. Because as you'll see going on, that's generally the format here. That is not what happened here. Dusty went 9 minutes, to end the show. And it starts by showing the footage that we saw at the beginning of the show with Don Kernodle coming back from the injury and those damn Russians. And Dusty narrates the footage, essentially cutting Kernodle's promo for him. And what had happened was, and this wasn't really talked about well during the show, but I imagine it had been in prior weeks. But Nikita had stolen the American flag from Don and shoved it down his singlet. That led to Dusty running in for the save, and he stole the Russian flag. Dusty then goes on to say that he wants to have a nationwide rally for Don Kernodle. And can you imagine a nationwide rally for Don Kernodle?
I know, all because of wrestling. We're going to have a nationwide rally. Like, okay, if someone told me this is like American propaganda satire, I would not question it a single bit. But I love how they played it straight. Like, there's no irony in it or no satire at all. It is played straight.
And then somehow Dusty transitioned from cutting Don Kernodle's promo for him for talking about how he wants the world title. And he talks about Ricky Steamboat wants it. He brings up Joe Frazier costing him the belt at Starrcade, which what happened there, and Joe Frazier, the former boxing heavyweight champion, he was brought in to referee Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes at Starrcade in November. And what happened was Frazier stopped the match because Dusty was bleeding. Because in boxing, if you're bleeding too bad, they stop the match. And this was supposed to lead to Dusty versus Frazier, and for whatever reason, it never happened. Now, I'm not going to play you 9 minutes of Dusty, but I'm going to play the last couple minutes here. Let me bring that up here right now, unless KJ have anything else to say before we play it.
I do not, no.
Alrighty, here we go.
The American Dream now has joined Don Kernodle and his quest for the American flag. And all peoples of races, creeds, and colors throughout this country know the American Dream, two-time world champion. Know Dusty Rhodes, the Tower of Power. Know the awesome air around me, because there is no athlete in this country that has captured the hearts like Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Don Kernodle, we now will go after the flag, the American flag. And one other word to say, in my new tour in 1985, Slam That Sucker Down 85, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, is going after the world's heavyweight title. And one man you talked to earlier, a good friend of mine and a great athlete that he is, Ricky Steamboat, this could be your year. No other athlete that I know of in this country has the driving ability, the driving force, the great power, and the timing of Ricky Steamboat. It's only fair and fitting that he gets his shot at the world's title. And being the man that he is, I know when he is world heavyweight champion Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat will give me that shot that you and Joe Frazier took from me. So we're going to get ready to rock and roll. We're going to get ready to boogie-woogie throughout this country. The world's tag team titles belongs to Dusty Rhodes and the Raging Bull. The Road Warriors, Tully Blanchard, Wahoo McDaniel, the Long Riders, the Koloff, men throughout this land will come in 1985 for the world's tag team titles. And they will face Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. Paul Jones, Superstar Billy Graham, the Barbarian. They too have sights set. But the assassin #1 has something to say about them two men. This is a new era. It's a new era. It's 1985. It's a time in this country to where we give thanks for what great country we live in. When Russia is out fighting little bitty people that's using sticks and stones to fight them with 20th century weapons, it don't set right with me. And I'm a religious man, and I raise a family. And I know sometimes my words are harsh. And I know that just now in my heart, I have to say what I feel. And as far as I'm concerned, the Russians can go straight.
So yeah, Dusty tells the Russians to go straight to hell.
I'm just going to, in my head, is they can go straight. That's it, just straight. And then he just cuts off.
I mean, there you go, because I mean, we don't know for a fact that, they're, heterosexual. I mean, we assume so. Nikita has a wife, but hey, you know.
He could be bi. You never know. All that promo needed was like the Star Spangled Banner playing in the background. Maybe get a flag waving behind them with some fireworks going off, you know. Because it was a little too subtle for me.
Get some children eating apple pie and
definitely. Definitely. It was way too subtle for me to get the point.
Yes. You know, we better not give Dusty ideas. He'll retroactively amp it up here.
Oh, yeah, go back in time.
So that was our first episode of Worldwide. Ultimately, I say it was a good show, and we want to give a rating on these shows here as we go along. I would give this show, because we're going to see a lot better. And in some ways, it's like, this isn't the first episode of Worldwide, but in so many ways, like, this is the perfect starting point, because it's going to get crazy hot here for the next couple of years. And so keeping in mind what we're going to see, out of a 10, I would give this episode a 6.
Cool. So, I mean, like I said before, I don't know anything about these kinds of shows. So, like to a first-time viewer, I was lost through a lot of the things. I didn't know who most of the people were they were talking about. So I really couldn't get into it as much as I would have liked, because I don't know anybody and I really couldn't follow the storylines because I was just kind of dropped into the middle of them. But like from a wrestling technical standpoint, I would give it like a 5.
Okay, so I gave it a 6. KJ gave it a 5. And that's going to do it for Worldwide this week. Hang on one second. We'll be back to close the show. Alrighty, welcome back. Ari and KJ here. And we're getting set for our brand new segment with a little bit of a background. Before I drag KJ kicking and screaming into watching 40-year-old wrestling shows, the only show KJ had ever really watched was SmackDown on Fox.
And the pay-per-views. Give me some credit.
Okay, and the pay-per-views, which means that he's basically only really been watching wrestling for about 3 years at this point. However, when we were first talking about doing this show last year, we both discovered a mutual love of a man then known as Cesaro. And we came up with the brilliant idea that every week on our podcast, we'd come on and do a segment called This Week in Cesaro, where KJ, who, again, avid SmackDown watcher, would tell us what Cesaro did that week. Well, Cesaro left WWE, sad face, but shows back up in AEW, and under his real name and his prior wrestling name of Claudio Castignoli. So we present to you the debut edition of the greatest segment that you have yet to hear. It is This Week in Claudio.
The man, the myth, the legend.
KJ, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. The match was basically Cesaro versus Konosuke Takeshita, and it was on AEW. It was Battle of the Belts, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was the main event, and it was good. I really liked it. It was really intense, and this is my first time hearing Claudio's theme, and I couldn't help but notice it has it's like a rock version of the 1812 Orchestra Overture by Tchaikovsky. So I thought that was kind of neat. And the match goes on, and really the biggest thing I noticed throughout this entire match is that both him and Takeshita are really good, and they're always on the offensive. So I personally, I felt that Cesaro was more putting Takeshita over, because Takeshita seemed like the stronger opponent throughout the entire match. But what really surprised me was that no matter how many times Takeshita put down Cesaro and I thought the match was over, Cesaro would just come right back up. it was like he reminded me of Nemesis from the Resident Evil series at that point, because no matter what Takeshita did, here came Cesaro right back up. So, Aria, what did you think of the match?
I didn't take any notes, but this was a fantastic match. It was for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Claudio won and retained the title. And, Battle of the Belts 3 didn't do the highest ratings. I think it did like 460,000 viewers. However, this is one of those matches that even if you're backlogged with, matches from AEW, Raw, SmackDown, and the G1 to watch, this is one of those matches not to skip. Because even though, we all knew, Takeshita wasn't winning. I think I read he's already back in Japan. His excursion is over. So it's like, this is pretty much the last we're seeing of him, and he went out with a bang.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to see this live, I would not be disappointed. Like when I watch SmackDown or some other shows, and I see the main event, I always think sometimes, wow, if I were there and this was the main event, I would feel a little disappointed, but not this one. I would feel like I got my money's worth because it was great.
That is amazing. And what kind of rating would you have given this match?
Well, because honestly, I don't like to give anything a 10 because I feel nothing's really perfect, but I would give it a 9.5. That was great. And I also this was the first time that I ever heard the commentators pronounce hell of a kick as hell of a kick and not haluva kick. So that kind of caught me off guard too.
Claudio did hit a hell of a kick.
Mm-hmm. I never understood why they pronounced the haluva kick. This is the first time they said hell of a.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the announcing team?
I thought they were good.
The 4-man booth.
Yeah.
It was what? It was Excalibur, Taz, William Regal, and Caprice Coleman, I think.
I don't remember the names, but I thought the commentary was good.
Alrighty.
And what would you rate it, Aria?
Honestly, I would go 9.5 myself. It's still that it's a great match, but you knew one side wasn't winning kind of thing that sometimes will take down a rating in your own head.
Yeah, but still, the journey was great.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Now, we wanted to finish this week's show with something a little less depressing than we finished the last show with. We wanted to elaborate a little bit on our sexual identities because we mentioned that I'm transgender and KJ is asexual, but there's a chance that not everybody knows what everything means. So we wanted to elaborate a bit on it. And I want to tell you, and I believe KJ feels the same way, that we're pretty much open to answering respectful questions about it. Like if you come up to me and ask, if I'm going to have my prick cut off, I will actually sit here and explain to you the surgery. And I've learned that when I do that, people aren't really happy. It sounds like they don't really want to know the surgical process, which makes me wonder why they asked. But anyway, mine's probably the easiest one because I think most people know this and understand it already. However, I was born male, and when I was 11, I realized that there was something not quite right in me. And actually, and this is the truth, my quote-unquote origin story is being 11 years old and watching the movie To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. And now I didn't know the difference between a drag queen, a cross-dresser, transsexual, whatever. I basically just thought everyone was pretty much the same. But that was the day that something went off in my head that things weren't as they seemed, And, it took me until I was 31 to flutter out of the closet. I don't regret it at all. I am on hormone replacement therapy and hopefully getting a few surgeries in the future. AJ?
Well, I am asexual, And for those who don't know, asexual is someone who feels little to no sexual attraction. And like many sexualities, it exists on a spectrum. Some asexual people do enjoy having sex, some don't, and some are in the middle. Some only feel sexual attraction when they get an emotional bond. It's just a spectrum. Me personally, I don't like any form of physical or sexual contact. So I would say I'm more of a sex repulsed asexual. And I really felt this way ever since I was a kid. Like when I was growing up, when I was in high school, everyone around me like wanted a girlfriend, they wanted a boyfriend, things like that. But I just couldn't be bothered with those kind of things. It never really felt like a desire for me. I never understood why people were so adamant on getting a partner. And it was like foreign to me, and I never knew what it was until I learned what asexual was, and I was like a light bulb went off, and I just thought, wow, that's totally me. And a problem with that, even till this day, is that not many people understand it, and they automatically make assumptions. Like let's be honest, a majority of humans like physical and sexual contact. And when I tell them that I don't like that, they just either don't understand it, they either mock me, or they say things like, oh, well, maybe you haven't found the right person yet, or, oh, did something happen to you? Things like that. And they automatically assume these things just by me telling them, when really it's nothing like that. I mean, it's kind of insulting in a way to say, maybe you haven't found the right person. Like, it's not taken seriously, I feel, enough. But it's just how I am, and I'm sticking by it.
And that is awesome. And, I hear it because, I hang out with KJ a lot. And when people find out that KJ's asexual, they'll usually say something to me like, how can somebody be asexual? And it's like, just because you are a sexual human being doesn't mean everybody is. And I honestly think that while transgender people do get stigmatized a lot, even within the LGBT community, believe it or not, asexual people are even more so because there is such a lack of understanding. And because I think to a lot of people, they can't understand how somebody could not be, sexually attracted or, being a sexual being. And,
yeah, and I feel the same way about how can someone be a sexual person. I can't understand it. But the difference is even though I don't understand it, I'm not going to dog on you for wanting to have sex with someone. But they dog on me for not wanting to have sex. So, oh well.
And we mentioned on the last episode, KJ mentioned that he was cisgender. For those who don't know that, cisgender just basically means that you identify as the gender you were born as and are not transgender, in case you didn't know that. So,
and a lot of people, even though I say I'm cis, they still think I am a woman, no matter what, because I have like really bushy hair, and I could tell them, no, I am a man, I am a he, and they still call me she, even after I tell them this.
KJ has an amazing head of hair, and it's not a wig, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a sight to behold. All right, so do you have anything else to say this week?
Yeah, people just like that, and they just don't get anything else like that. So,
you're breaking up a bit there, KJ. What was that? Hello? I think we lost my co-host. But hey, if I'm going to lose them, this is the time to lose them because we're going to wrap things up for today. We will be back on Sunday with Mid-South Wrestling from December 10th in 1981. So, by the way, feel free to follow along. I know the show's on Peacock. I know the dates don't always match up. If you're not subscribed to Peacock, it's also available on YouTube. Check it out. Watch along with us. And yeah, we'll be back on Sunday to talk more. So, for KJ, I'm Arya. Have a great rest of your weekend, ladies and gentlemen.